The Battle of Yarmouk, an introduction. The Byzantines largely ignored the Muslims until Umar conquered the great city of Damascus in 635. It was then that the emperor, Heraclius, realized this new foe must be crushed. He raised a huge army from across his empire to drive the Muslims back into Arabia. The Muslims retreated and regrouped on the edge of the desert in modern-day Jordan, and then they met the Byzantine forces on the plains overlooking the Yarmouk River Valley, northeast of Jerusalem. The Battle of Yarmouk was one of the great turning points in history. The Muslim army defeated a much larger, technologically superior force through strategy and determination. Umar had appointed a great general to lead his troops against the Byzantine army, Abu Ubaidah, who was assisted by another savvy general, Khalid. This is a fictionalized story of General Vahan, the leader of the Byzantine troops, and his experience through the long Battle of Yarmouk. The Battle of Yarmouk. General Vahan was confident. The loss of territory to the newly united Arabs had been an unbearable humiliation for the Byzantine Empire. He was proud that Emperor Heraclius had given him, his greatest general, 80,000 troops to crush the new Muslim army. In the past few weeks, he had swept through Syria, and the Muslims had retreated before him. Now was his chance to end their expansion. 25,000 Muslim troops were gathered before him on the Yarmouk plains. Deep ravines with rushing waters surrounded them. There were few ways to escape. Not that escaping should be necessary for the Byzantines. Vahan's army was larger, more experienced, and had superior technology. There was little doubt of victory. Vahan watched his army train. Infantrymen jogged up and down under the watch of a steely-eyed officer, holding their spears and shields aloft. In battle, they would form a perfect barrier, preventing any of the enemy from attacking the troops within. Behind them, the rest of the infantry would be sheltered, ready to throw javelins and shoot arrows at the enemy. Then there were the mighty cavalry. He could see them, making crude jokes and jostling one another. Little could dent the arrogance of a cavalryman. Armed with lances, long swords, and short bows, they would be the key to crushing the enemy. They would charge at the Muslim soldiers, shooting arrows as they advanced. Then they would crash into them with their battle-trained horses, scattering men left and right. Finally, there were the champions. Seasoned officers and warriors, they would begin the battle by fighting duels to the death against their Muslim opponents. General Vahan knew many would die. But those who succeeded would strike fear into the hearts of the other soldiers. The Byzantine soldiers were as diverse as the empire itself. People from Armenia, Syria, Egypt, Greece, the Balkans, and more. They were also unstoppable. At least they should be. Vahan suppressed a twinge of doubt. His soldiers were tired after fighting the Persians for so many years. Still, Vahan believed victory would be within reach. Day 1. The battle began, as was the tradition, with the dueling of champions. Vahan was surprised at the number of champions the Muslims managed to slay. Still, it had been a fruitful day. Vahan had tested the Muslim lines with his army and now understood their strength and formation. He had a plan. Day 2. Now the real battle began. Vahan launched a major attack, with cavalry and infantry striking hard at the center of the Muslim forces. He attacked before dawn when the Muslims would be praying. But the Muslim general Abu Ubaidah was prepared for this stratagem. He was ready to meet the Byzantines on the battlefield. Abu Ubaidah may have seen through Vahan's ploy, but he was still overwhelmed by the Byzantines' numbers. Soon, the Muslims' right flank collapsed. The soldiers fled back to their camps. Vahan watched with satisfaction. Suddenly, he saw the Muslim soldiers returning. Sure it was a trick, he shouted for a messenger to discover what was happening. When the messenger returned, panting and breathless, he told an astonishing story. The Muslim women in the camps were furious with their husbands for fleeing the battle. They charged at them with tent poles, threw rocks at them, and sang songs of betrayal. Their fury had forced their husbands back into the battle. Vahan was amazed, but carried on with the attack. This time he pushed on the left flank. Again, the Muslim soldiers fled, only to be pushed back into the battle by their wives. Thwarted, Vahan retired to sleep. His dreams were troubled. The day should have seen the destruction of the Muslim soldiers. Instead, little had been gained.